Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity. Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity.
Hey there, it's Reaver, and welcome to my July-August wrap-up stats. So, total number of books read, 14. Total pages, 3,965. Rereads, 3. The rest, the other 11 first-time reads. Age ranges, 1 children, 1 middle grade, 8 YA, and 4 adult. Formats, 3 I read digitally, 1 was ebook, 2 were audio, and then everything else, the other 11 I read physically. As far as form, 11 were prose, 1 poetry, 1 manga, 1 other. Star ratings are pretty interesting. 0 1 star, 1 2 star, 3 3 star, 4 4 star, and 5 5 star. What? And genres, 1 nonfiction, 1 poetry, 1 manga, 1 cozy mystery, 1 edited journal, 2 sci-fi, 2 contemporary, and 3 fantasy. So kind of all over the place. First book I read was Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. This is a 2018 YA sci-fi. It's kind of got mystery vibes as far as the sci-fi-ness goes. It's more people driven, and then like in the beginning it's more like relationship driven, and then like later it gets into like more like government, like politic kind of driven. Warnings. Suicide, grief, loss, virus epidemic. I wanted to mention that due to the coronavirus. I feel like it is definitely trigger warning worthy for some people now. Bullying, blood, injury, wounds, depression, murder, specifically domestic, pyromania and fires, gambling, drugs, drinking games, invasion of privacy, specifically by the government, sexual harassment, cancer, psychosis, cheating and adultery, experimental drugs, and finally panic attacks. We do have some representation in this from India and from China. Orphans, religion, but there's no specifics for the religion. It's like God with the big G. Vegetarian representation as well as LGBTQ. Some archetypes. We have an artist character, some characters who enjoy reading. Ebooks are a thing because, you know, sci-fi. Some unrequited love vibes, technology, space, spaceships, artificial intelligence or AI, rebellion, the future, a second ice age, email communication, moving, some controversial topics, drinking, underage, and like drinking like to the point of drunkenness, prostitution, gambling, and drugs. Themes that this covers are gender roles, government invasion of privacy, government manipulation, the dangers of a self-aware AI, and the power of controlling the narrative. So this is a Jane Eyre retelling, so I want to make a note of that as well. Okay, so let's get into a synopsis. So Earth has plunged into a second ice age, and instead of staying there, the rich people built spaceships and are now orbiting Earth out in space until everything is fine again and they can live on Earth safely again. So not everybody was able to, you know, fly away because not everybody can afford that. There are different ships. There are like rich people ships and poor people ships. There are also like private ships for the extremely rich people. Our Jane-like character, like the part of Jane in this version of Jane Eyre retelling things. I'm good at words today. Her name is Stella, and she is on this ship, the Stalwart, which is falling apart, and she gets the opportunity to go to this ship called the Rochester and be a governess, and so she goes. And it comes with, you know, having to try to figure out how to deal with like a whole new set of people, and there's like kind of some weirdness about this ship, you know, how few people there are there, and you know, there's like some odd occurrences that come up, things like that she's trying to deal with. And on top of that, she also begins to make some discoveries that make her question kind of everything. So all in all, most things were pretty neutral for me. There were a couple of retelling elements that I wasn't the hugest on, but most of the retelling things I really enjoyed. This was one of my favorite retellings that I've read of Jane Eyre so far. There were a couple of things plot-wise that weren't the best, and there was this one piece in particular where there was a choice that the author made that she did not need to. Like, it was like one of those things where it's like you think something happened, but then, oh wait, no, just kidding. And it was just kind of to get you all emotional for a sec. Didn't move the plot forward at all. It didn't tell us anything new about the characters. So it wasn't anything beneficial to the story. Next up, we have Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell. This is a 2018 YA poetry collection. This is written in free verse. Some of the things you can expect going into this are some trigger warnings for alcohol, suicide, manipulation, and gaslighting, anxiety, parental issues, betrayal, and cutting. The author is part of the LGBTQ community. Archetypes, discussions on unrequited love, a happy relationship, breakups, coffee, and aesthetic. Some controversial topics that this covers include long-distance relationships, sexual content, themes that this will cover, the idea of let me love you type thing, heartbreak and letting go, fear, lost love, breakups, unrequited love, don't take love for granted, fall in love more. And that one is specifically talking about like falling in love with the little things more, not like romantically falling in love. Brokenness, betrayal, selfishness, forgiveness, moving on, people change, you can do it, body positivity. We all have pain and you matter. So in general, I did really enjoy this collection. The things that I didn't like were that the individual poems are not titled, which I know that's a small thing, but for me personally, I find it annoying. I wish they were at least numbered, but it is categorized in like almost like a chapter type way. Let's focus more romantically than platonically, and I was hoping that it would be more of a mixture of the two. That is one thing that I find a lot of times in poetry is that we get a lot of stuff about romance and nothing about all of the emotions that you get from non-romantic experiences that are like either internal or relationally. You know, there are so many things to unwrap there. There is so much to unwrap. And most of the time we get more like this, where it's more about romance than anything else. And so I really kind of wish it had either clarified that it was like, oh, this is all romancy, or oh, this is a mixture. Anyway, I give it 4 stars. Next up, we have Erased Volume 1 by Kai Sanbi. Could be pronouncing that wrong. I did not check it. It's a 2013 YA manga. It's the first in a series, obviously. So as far as the genre of this, it's kind of like magical realism-y. It's like a little bit of like magicalness to it, but it's not explained, and it's more contemporary feeling than fantasy feeling. A mystery type vibe to it as well in some elements. Things you can expect going into this include trigger warnings for motorcycle accident, car accident, hospitals, a heart attack, death due to a heart attack, disappearances or missing peoples, bad maternal relationships, repressed memories, jail time, temper issues, abuse specifically from a parent, possibly wrongful imprisonment, death or loss of parent, poverty, stereotyping, and bullying. Archetypes you can expect are serial kidnapping, repressed memories, hideout, paper planes, books, bookstores, missed opportunities, second chances. This is set partially in the 80s in Japan. Nintendo, there's a manga artist, time travel, and we also get a good friend group going. Some controversial topics include profanity, smoking, drinking, and death penalty. Some themes that this talks about include gender roles, taking the good times for granted, definitely a theme in here, missed opportunities and second chances, and different versions of yourself, like as you age and things like that. Let's do a little synopsis. This follows our main character, Satoru, who he gets caught in these time loops randomly. He's stuck in that time loop of just like anywhere from a few seconds to a minute until he fixes some specific bad thing and like prevents it from happening. One day when something very tragic happens and he jumps further back in time than he's ever gone before, he actually jumps back years, back to his childhood, right before this series of disappearances, kids his age, starts to happen. So all in all, there were just a couple of plot things that were like a little not the best. I think they were maybe like that they didn't make sense was the thing. But other than that, I loved this. I thought it was so much fun, so intriguing, so many feelings, so so many feelings, and I cannot wait until I can finally get volume 2. So this I gave 5 stars. The next book that I completed was Interview with the Robot. This is by Lee Bacon. 2020 middle grade sci-fi. It's kind of a softer sci-fi. Triggers for child welfare services, grief and loss, car accidents, deaths due to a car accident, temper, earthquakes, social workers, and juvenile prison. Some controversial topics include theft and self-driving cars. For representation, we get some anxiety rep. Archetypes, we have an interview type format, science, of course, secret lab, artificial intelligence or AI, boarding school, on the run or running away, being tracked or chased, physics and math, the not like other kids type thing, training in a training center, virtual realities, found family, and travel. Themes include worrying about what others think, building a machine to upgrade humanity. Purpose, like what's your purpose type. I am so stupid. The last 2 books, both Erased and Pillow Thoughts, were during the reading rush, and I totally forgot to mention that. Ugh. This one's during the reading rush too. We have 2 storylines that we're experiencing, and we are in the present, and our main character, one of our main characters, is in an interview with a social worker, and recounting some past experiences, and we kind of jump back into those past elements, like throughout as she's telling about them. We like jump into that time period. She looks 12, but she isn't. She looks human, but she isn't. Eve is on the run, and when she gets scooped up by child welfare services for wandering the city alone, her only option is to tell the truth and hope they believe her, as unbelievable as her story may seem. Well, a couple things that I did not like were the ending wasn't my favorite, but it was more because like I wanted something else to happen, and I would have loved for that thing to happen, but like I understand why it didn't, because like it was already a little bit like I can see why. So it's like I'm not that mad about it. Also, some unnatural dialogue at times that like didn't flow. Towards the beginning, everything that was happening was so predictable. But then, literally as I'm starting to write down, I've guessed, I knew every plot twist that was coming. It's been like so obvious this whole time. As soon as I was starting to think that, it absolutely blew my mind. This insane twistiness started happening in the plot, and I was just like, holy crap. It was very captivating and very interesting as a story, and for that reason I gave it 5 stars. Next up we have Jumanji by Chris Van Allsburg. This is a 1981, yes, children's kind of fantasy, kind of magical realism, surrealism. Basically, this is about a brother and sister who move into a new house and start playing a board game that's sitting on the floor that they find. And they sit down and they start playing the game. And once they start playing the game, crazy things start happening. And the only way out is through. They have to finish the game to be able to make everything go back to normal. It's crazy. It's a fun time. If you've never seen Jumanji, the old movie or the new ones, you've got to go watch them. Go watch all 3 of them. I am very insanely picky when it comes to remakes or like a reboot or continuation of a story. It takes a lot to impress me when it comes to movies in general, but especially when it comes to remakes and reimaginings or recreations or extensions of a story, all those types of things. But I love what they've done so far with the Jumanji movies. I think they've done a great job so far. I'm so impressed so far. The only thing that I didn't like about this was the fact that I want like a whole stinking novel, okay? I want to read Jumanji Adventures in novel form. And of course this is just a picture book, so what are you gonna do? I mean, it's still fun. and I still gave it 5 stars because the idea having stemmed from this amazing person is all that matters to me. The concept of a game like kind of coming to life in a way, having been created by this man before like video games started to be a thing, like holy cow, so good. The next one I have is the Curiosities. This is it's an anthology, so it has 3 authors: Maggie Stiefvater, Tessa Gretton, and Brenna Jovanov. This is a 2012 YA kind of fantasy mostly, or like horror thriller type stories mostly, with a couple in there that are contemporary. I think like 2 are like either contemporary or like feel mostly contemporary until like the end. There's one that's anyway, so it's like a more dark type of anthology. Trigger warnings and stuff, there's a freaking crazy list because, you know, it's a bunch of different short stories. A couple stories that I gave 2 stars to. I think there was only 2 of them, or 3. And there was like 1 or 2 that I gave 3 stars to. But then everything else was 4 and 5 stars. Almost everything was 4 or 5 stars. It was insane. I loved this so much. There were like, so many things. So good. Holy cow. I can't wait to get the next one. There's another one that they did. They used to have this blog, and like that's what this is pulled from. And so none of these are edited, which to me, I give it a little bit of slack in some ways, I guess, for the fact that there were some that I hated because of that. Because of the element that they didn't edit these at all. They did, however, put in annotations. So I did my annotations in blue because their annotations were in black. And that was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. So the next one I read was Broom Service by Morgana Best. This is a 2020 adult cozy mystery, and it's the 5th in the Sea Witch Cozy Mystery series. A couple of quick trigger warnings: just a car accident, claustrophobia, and blackmailing. There is representation for adoption and archetypes for some pop culture and some blackmailing. Controversial topics include ageism, is referenced at one point, and sexism. I didn't really put any other notes because I'm not gonna like give a summary or anything because I already have in my previous wrap-ups, so that will be linked below if I actually put the links in this time. Enjoyed some of them, but this one was completely just not it, like at all for me. Here's the thing, cozy mysteries are going to be ridiculous. That's kind of part of the fun of them. That's like a thing that they're supposed to be, is like slightly ridiculous to the point where it's like an entertaining level of ridiculous. But like even then you can go too far, I feel like, in that ridiculousness, where it's like, in what way would that have been the thing that happened, you know? Like when somebody says the word seal, you probably think, you know, if they're saying, I need a seal, you're probably going to say a seal for what? Or what kind of seal? What am I looking for? Because like, in what way would you automatically say, oh, you need the animal seal, and I'm going to go get you a physical, actual seal, living, breathing seal, and bring it to you. At the very beginning of the story on this one, we kind of knew who the villain was, but like I thought that it was going to be like a bad guy in the, like in a subplot, where like this was a subplot character that was going to be a part of that. But no. They weren't just like annoying person to be a part of the subplot. No, they actually were also the villain. And that really bothered me a lot because like from the beginning you hated this person. And to me that's just like a really stupid villain. Like there was no reason for us to like them at all. They were just, it was a very poorly written villain. It wasn't like a you love to hate them type villain either. It wasn't good at all. It was bad. And the way that she, our main character, gets out of a particular situation when like something gets dangerous at one particular point is literally the exact same thing, identical to what was done in the last book. And I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with the series because like nothing progressed in this story whatsoever. Nothing happened. There was not really any, like, in the main plot or in the subplots, nothing really happened that moved us forward into, you know, from the last book into whatever book 6 is going to be. Like, nothing tied us through to, like, a development that teaches us more about the, you know, place that we're in, or teaches us more, or develops the relationships in any way. No. It was just kind of there. It was the weirdest, and I was not a fan, and I gave it 2 stars. So it turns out there actually was a 1-star book, and I was missing like, I was like 300 pages off on how many pages I completed, and 1 book behind on some of my stats, my numbers. So keep that in mind, but you'll have to hang on to your seats to find out what book I'm referring to. The next one is 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson. This is one of 2 books, or the first in a duology of the same name. That's what I was trying to say. It's a YA contemporary. So this one covers like travel type vibes, those kinds of things. Plot. Ginny gets a set of letters from her dearly departed aunt, which she must open one at a time following their instructions before opening the next one, while exploring Europe on her own. It was I think I mentioned that it was a reread, right? I love the idea of this book, the concept behind this book of like, we're traveling through Europe and we're following these letters from our aunt who is trying to tell us something or teach us something, you know, and is like trying to like do things like to, you know, lead us on a path and all of those things. I like really loved the idea of that. But there's one thing about this that really kills it. And that is the tact. And by that I mean the trigger warnings, representation, controversial topics, those types of things, and the themes. All of those elements were not done super well for over half of the things. Honestly, I can say that. Probably over half of them are not done well. So of those elements, like a large portion of them were done poorly, and that's a problem. You know, you it's a YA book. You gotta, you know, you can't be leaving bad messages, and you can't be giving horrible representation. Like, they're just things, and it's a 2005, so you gotta cut it some slack. In some ways. However, I mean, I just think that there are things that even in 2005 don't make sense to have been put in the book. On a 3-star for this book because I still enjoyed it. It's still a fun read, but it's pretty frustrating at times. Are you ready to find out the book that I gave 1 star to? This was a reread as well. I'm gonna say that before I hold this book up. And it was released in 2016. It is a middle grade fantasy. Do you know what it is yet? So I was reading this to someone, and that is why I reread this book. And I read this prior to all the things happening. So I'm just being honest and telling you what I read this month. Okay? So, but obviously I didn't even fill it all the way out. So there you go. My nose is itching. Do you ever have that sad time where your nose is itching and you can't really do anything about it because it's your nose? I don't really have anything to say about this book other than that it's just really bad fan fiction all mashed together, and I don't care what anybody says, it's definitely not canon. That's all I'm saying. Something definitely another adventure type feeling that we're going to be going on here for a sec. We got Geology for Dummies. So this is research. I'm reading this for research, and I don't know what else to say. It's a research thing for writing things, and I needed to do some geology research. Okay, before I started, it is called Malcolm and Me. It is by Ishmael Reed. It's a 2020 adult sort of memoir, and I don't really have a lot to say. I listened to this via audio. It's an Audible original, another one of those. And dang it! Did I forget to say? Crap. Okay. 13 Little Blue Envelopes. This is the last one from the reading rush. This I was reading with or to somebody. Like I was reading it aloud to them. And then this I was reading for research, like throughout all the things. So we're done reading Rush, and then those two were not related to anything. This one was do a 24-hour readathon. Reverse 24-hour readathon. So like, yeah. Okay. So I picked it up for that because I needed an audiobook. And I don't want to have books that I'm not reading. So I want to get through some of those books and like get them off of the TBR side and onto the red side, you know what I mean? So I don't remember how I picked my book for this, but this is one I read. And I have to say, I just don't think I'm a huge memoir person at all. But especially if it's not like somebody I know well. Like, as far as like, I followed their, you know, work, or, you know, I watched. Like, you know, maybe I would be into Lauren Graham's Talking as Fast as I Can more than other memoirs. I don't know. But like, I just like, even like Glozell's, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, new favorite thing. It's just not as much of a genre that I am like totally into. Anyways, I gave it 3 stars. We have The Last Little Blue Envelope, words by Maureen Johnson. Which, can we talk about this? This came out in 2011. 2005, 2011. 2005, 2011. You want to know what's crazy about that? This happened in summer. This happened that winter. Same year. What the heck? Okay, I'm back. My camera battery died, and apparently the other one wasn't charged, even though normally as soon as I have to take one out, I charge up the other one, so it should have been completely charged and ready. I don't know. Also, if you hear background noise, I apologize. I started the vacuum whilst I was waiting for this to charge, and did some cleaning inadvertently, and now I'm kind of hot because I was cleaning in this sweater. Okay, I turned off the vacuum because Sam kept barking at it. I read this one during Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Honestly, it's kind of the same thoughts as the other book. The only main thing that I hate about this one is like, it's basically the exact same issues. There's just a few different people involved in this one. And it, like, as far as issues being my complaints, and honestly issues that the character has in what she's doing and dealing with, there's a few things that are changed, but like at the end of the day it's pretty similar. This one a 3-star as well. Next up is Lucy in the Sky. This is by an anonymous author, and I do want to talk about this one just a touch, but let me go through the it was published in 2012, and it is an edited journal sort of genre. Here's the thing. I have discovered since reading this one even more controversial things to do with these books, and I want to know the truth. And so I'm going to talk about those in another video maybe, but basically, like, I can't say, I'm assuming this is fiction entirely, but we are given the impression by the editors and everything from the first book, even from Go Ask Alice, that it's like a real person's journal for all these books. So I just have a lot of thoughts to talk about with that, because they're not being very clear. The publishers are not being very clear. The editors are not being very clear, and I'm not okay with that. I don't think that's an okay way to, because like it's okay if it's fiction, and it's okay if it's not fiction, if it's like edited true stories, but we need to know the truth, right? You know, like, you need to be honest with your readers about what they're reading. And so I have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts, so I will be coming back to this at some point to talk about that a little bit more. If you want to know more, just let me know, and I will make sure I get that done sooner than later. That if this book is what it should be, then it is 5 stars. If there are issues that I discover due to the controversial things, that may change things. And it's kind of the same way with Jay's journal, that like originally I had marked it as 5 stars, but then I found out the truth behind what really was going on and some of the problematic things that happened, and I think I just removed my rating altogether because I don't think that it's something that I can even rate. I don't know, but it depends with this one. Really weird things have happened in regards to this like sort of collection of books, and I want to dig deeper into it and talk about it because it's pretty weird. The next book I completed was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Dark Artifices series trilogy, and the series is part of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, which is like a collection of series. It's kind of hard to explain. It is a 2016. Sam, you good? Sam? Yeah, he's fine. He like coughed and then he was like silent. He didn't move. Normally he like coughs and then he like waddles around sadly. Huh. Anyway, it is a 2016 YA fantasy. It's urban fantasy specifically. This particular trilogy is set in LA. Each one of the Shadowhunter trilogies is mostly set in a different area. So I'm not going to give a synopsis for this because that would give spoilers for the other books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. Even though it's the first book in a series, it still is about like future related events have happened, or like it happens after the event of other books that would give away information if I told you anything. Suffice it to say that the Shadowhunter Chronicles follow a race of half-human, half-angel beings called Nephilim or Shadowhunters, and they protect the human mortal world from demons and also help to kind of keep downworlders from fighting each other or excessively killing humans, things like that. Downworlders are vampires, werewolves, fairies, and warlocks. I don't think I'll ever be able to give one of the Shadowhunter books below a 5-star. Not in the foreseeable future. I can't imagine a circumstance that would have to be so bad that I couldn't overlook the mistakes. Maybe or maybe not, because I have been emotionally connected to this series ever since I first started reading it, because like it got me through like the worst of things in life. Okay, so the last book that I read during July and August was Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Well, this is the last book I completed. But anyway, I read this with the Literally Dead Book Club by Books and Lala, and yeah, so let's get into the things. It's a 2020 adult thriller. Specifically, it's like a creepy house thriller, a haunted house type thriller. Basically, I really enjoyed this. There were a couple of things that kept it from being a 5-star. A couple of plot things, I think. The title does not fit the book, like at all. Because in what way would you want to be home before dark if this is the creepy home you're going to and it's a creepy haunted, possibly haunted, who knows, house. It was my first Riley Sager though. So if, you know, and I gave it the same rating that Lala gave it. She gave it 4 stars too. But she gave Lock Every Door 5 stars. So I think I need to read Lock Every Door. In closing, I just want to say that I'm going to continue working on making adjustments to these videos and kind of refine them a little bit more. Here are all the books that I read this 2 months of July and August. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for sticking with me through it and through the transition that I'm going through with the wrap-ups that I'm gonna do this next couple months. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, whatever time it is that you're watching this, and I hope to see you guys very soon with another video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Peace out, Bear Scouts.
About your worries and your stress. I mean a bare necessity. That's why a bear can rest at ease with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, with just the bare necessities of life.